What's up, you guys? It's Paul here. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about whether I think now is a good time to get into Snowflake stock or not. And also, we'll go through a little bit of the financials behind Snowflake compared with other high-flying tech stocks to determine whether it's a good valuation or not. And also, before I get into that, I'll share a quick update on how the stock market is moving right now and what I'm planning to do about it, okay? Now, uh, a quick update on the stock market today. Again, we saw a bit of a pullback today. It was down nearly 1%. But if you remember, if you watched my previous videos, I talked about how I'm watching two key levels right now. One is this black line here, which goes back to our previous 52-week high before our March crash here, which was around $339. And the second level that I was watching is the 50-day moving average, which is currently around $333. Okay. Now, if you look at the price today, it did hit about $333 today and then bounced off of it, which is exactly what I was expecting, okay? So I was expecting that it would hit the 50-day moving average and potentially bounce back up. But as you saw here too, I expected that it would bounce off of the previous high, come back down, retest it, and my intention was that if it went back up, then we were pretty good in the short term. But if it's starting to go down and did bounce off of the 50-day moving average, we still need to make sure if it's going to retest it and go back up, or retest it and actually keep crashing down, okay? So that's what I'm keeping an eye out for. I'm still not going all in with buying stocks yet, or neither am I selling out. So I'm just waiting to see how it's going to move for now. As you can see, it's been kind of sideways over the last couple of days, pretty volatile, going up and down in this channel. But I'm going to see how it's going to proceed going further, okay? Also with the MACD line that I talked to you before, this looks a lot like what we saw here when we saw this correction back in June. The MACD line has crossed over, the leading indicator crossed over the lagging indicator, which is usually an indication that we are starting to see a sell-off. But we saw that it bounced off the 200-day moving average, started going back up, retested it, and once it was a confirmed uptrend, then we saw that it crossed over here, and then we were in a confirmed uptrend, okay? Here, we haven't seen this kind of a crossover yet. We're going to see what happens to the 50-day moving average, and if it really goes down below zero, we might be in a bit of a trouble. Then it might seem more like here during the March crash when, it actually went below the zero line, and we didn't see a crossover until way later, okay? So these are a couple of key things that I'm looking at regarding where I think the stock market is about to move. Okay, now getting back to Snowflake stock, we saw a 10.5% pullback here today. Do you think this is still a good time to get in now that we saw a pullback? In my opinion, not yet. Okay, so Snowflake is one of those typical really hyped up stock that everyone got excited about because Berkshire Hathaway and Salesforce's Mark Benioff got into it and invested $250 million. But what you need to understand is anytime there's so much hype behind the stock, they're always going to price their IPO at a ridiculous price, okay? Now, as it is, opening up at $120 was so crazy, and if you saw my previous video, I knew that it would start trading a little higher than 120. I was expecting maybe 150 to 160 and maybe hit a high of 200 in a couple of days, but I did not expect it to open as high as 245. In fact, it even hit a high of 319 at one point and came back down. But I knew for a fact that as soon as it opened at 245, I knew for a fact that I was going to stay away, okay? Personally, I'm not going to touch the stock until it drops maybe to 150 to 170. Ideally, I'd like to actually see a lot closer to the IPO price, but that may not really happen. But I'm definitely not touching the stock above 200 for sure, okay? Now, I want to compare it quickly with other high-flying tech stocks like Zoom, for example. We all know Zoom is like one of the best performing stock and best performing company this year, pretty much. And there's so many questions about Zoom's valuation and whether it's worth being $413 $13 per share or not. Okay, so I just wanted to quickly go over some of the financials to compare it with how Snowflake is doing to see if it justifies the valuation right now. Okay, now Zoom is currently valued at around $117 billion. And if you look at how their revenue has been growing, they made about $60 million in 2017, and they went up to $151 million in 2018. They more than 2x'd again in 2019 to $330 million, doubled again to $622. And if you look at the actual trailing 12 months, we're actually at $1.3 billion in revenue for them, okay? Now, they're already a profitable company, as you can see here in the net income. They were not profitable yet by 2018, but that where are we? That turned into $7.5 million by 2019, $25 million by 2020, by the beginning of 2020, and it pretty much 10x in the trailing 12 months. Okay, if you even look at the quarterly earnings here, we saw that they had a revenue of $166 million as of the fourth quarter of 2019. And just by the third quarter of 2020, they've already quadrupled their revenue. Okay. And their earnings shot up like crazy. By the second quarter, their earnings were only $27 million. But by third quarter, it's $186 million. Okay. So for a company that's growing like that, its market cap is only $117 billion. And when I say only, I'm still being relative here. It's $117 billion, and it has a pretty rich price to sales ratio of around 84. Okay. Now let's look at Snowflake here. Snowflake also revenue is actually growing at a really quick rate. They had about $96 million in 2019, beginning of 2019, and or rather for year 2018, and about $264 million for 2019, which is really, really impressive. But if you look at the net income here, they're still not even profitable. In fact, they've lost more money since they began since 2018 than in 2019. So for a company that's not even profitable and has a revenue of less than half, or actually even almost like a quarter of Zoom, Snowflake is trading at a price to sales ratio of 178. Okay, that's almost twice as much as, actually more than twice what Zoom is trading at. And Snowflake's market cap right now is $63 billion. Okay, so that to me is crazy to compare with the company that's already very richly valued and a high-flying tech stock. To think that this particular IPO is trading so rich compared to even Zoom, in my opinion, that should also be a red flag for you to decide that it's overvalued right now. Okay. Also, like if you're basing it off of the fact that Berkshire Hathaway is into it, guys, try to understand that $250 million is absolutely nothing for Berkshire Hathaway. Okay, now Berkshire Hathaway has a market cap of, I think, $450 billion. Okay, so compare a $250 million investment in a stock when you have a market cap of $450 billion. That's absolutely nothing. They make probably 10x or even 20x that in just quarterly dividends from different stocks they're invested in, like Coca-Cola, for example. Okay, so $250 million, don't be impressed by that from Berkshire Hathaway. That's really nothing. It's probably a 0.001% of Berkshire's portfolio. So if you don't chase it just because of that, it's just extremely overvalued right now. It makes absolutely no sense for a company that's not even profitable to be trading at this kind of a valuation. It almost reminds me of hyped up stocks like Lyft and Uber, for example, which traded at insane valuations right off the open. And for example, Lyft dropped all the way from 87 to less than $30, I think, which is so crazy. Now, granted, that's not a software as a service or a SaaS company like Snowflake, which is growing at 170% a year or something. But still, it kind of reminds me of how hyped up stocks tend to not do well in the beginning, irrespective of how well the company itself is doing. Okay, so keep an eye out for it. As of now, I'm still not going to get into it. I would wait for below 200 at least. Ideally, I'd love it to be between 150 to maybe 175, and that would be a point where I would like to get in. But as of now, I'm staying away from it. Okay. Now, having said that, guys, so that's what I wanted to share with you about Snowflake. I've also got an exciting news coming for you guys. I'm creating a Discord server to create a private member group where I want to build a community of other like-minded people who are interested in investing, who are interested in trading options. And in that group, you'll have 24/7 access to me pretty much. You can chat directly with me. I could review your portfolio if you'd like. And I'll also be sharing with you the exact trades I'm making on a daily or weekly basis or whenever I trade, okay? So I'm only going to make trades that I myself am implementing, so it's going to be like a very transparent system, but it's more so to build a community and help others learn from it during the process. And the stock market is one of the only few places where an entire community can make money together by learning from each other and not having to compete like you would in a corporate world, okay? So that's all I wanted to share with you guys. So look out for the Discord link that'll come out soon. Thank you for watching. Please just smash the like button if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell. Okay. And thank you for watching. And until next time.